headlines to digest. I first want to say that I think the Facebook seems more of an overreaction. That seemed more of a trade, as you will, between government agencies. But let's back up a second. So first we heard of the DOJ basically kind of oversight for Google. And they basically kind of took over where the FTC was many years ago. It's been well reported the FTC investigated but chose not to move ahead. So presumably all of that information was then turned over. It then seemed perhaps that then the trade was, okay, you get Facebook. But there's another way to think about this. When we had the Apple news, with the DOJ also saying they're going to take a look at Apple, what do Apple and Google have in common? It's mobile. And so perhaps it's the mobile on one side analysis versus, we'll call it the consumer, Amazon potentially, and Facebook on the FTC side. Then I want to get into kind of how historically these agencies have looked at kind of antitrust and whatnot. Historically, the DOJ has looked at market dominance. They'll take a look at, how big is your business relative to the industry you're in? Are you too big, and kind of have you done something that makes them realize you're too big? Kind of on our math, if you look at, again, this would be a U.S. probe, that Google, by the most conservative, is about 26% of advertising. But if you get much more broad and you look at shopper marketing, what's called brand activation, so everything that marketers spend, they're 13%. So kind of keep that number in mind. Whereas on the FTC side, it tends to be more of, has a company injured the consumer, or does their business practice hurt the consumer? And kind of, that's kind of, I think, the way in our mind it's being looked at right now.
We also want to bring in Andre Barlow, a former DOJ attorney. Mr. Barlow, great to have you with us. When you take a look at how these agencies seem to be divvying up, so to speak, big tech, can we then think about what sorts of remedies each of these agencies might look to exact on these companies?
Well, I think it's too early to tell in terms of remedies. We're at the very early stages of the investigations by the FTC into Facebook and the Department of Justice into Google. But remedies will come later on. I mean, the first thing is they have to figure out, have the antitrust laws been violated, right? Have Facebook and Google, have they done anything that would result in some sort of remedy? So I think it's really too early to tell if there will be any remedies. But if there are going to be remedies, I would think that they would be more behavioral in nature and not structural.
I guess what I was really getting at, Andre, is if we say that the FTC is going to spearhead the probes against Facebook and possibly in Amazon, can we say that perhaps asking those companies to break up is off the table, whereas the companies who are in the sights of the DOJ could face that ultimate remedy?
Well, I wouldn't say that anything's off the table, but I would say this from past experience, and we have the experience from Microsoft when the Department of Justice, brought that case to trial and actually won and had a chance to use that remedy, that structural type of remedy of breaking up Microsoft. It chose not to do so. These are companies that have all grown pretty much, organically. And the other thing we have to factor in here is just you have to balance the pro-competitive and the anti-competitive effects. And all of these companies are offering consumers great benefit. So they have to move with caution. I expect these investigations to be thorough, and they will think long and hard before that they would, go with a structural remedy. I would think that we're going to have more of the behavioral type remedy.
All right, Ed, why is this happening now?
The timing was pretty stellar on the DOJ's part, right in the middle of Apple's announcement. I'm surprised. I'm stunned by the timing, frankly, that it's all happening now all at once. It is something that both agencies have been signaling for a while, so in that way, maybe we shouldn't be surprised. But, not to be discounted, I think that this administration has made its sentiments clear about big tech generally. And so I think, it's probably sort of a long overdue kind of a thing. I will say this, though, on the other side, sort of not necessarily advocating for tech, but the position that they tend to take when they look at this is, hey, look, you want to try to stifle us or break us up or exact some kind of remedies against us, look at China, right? They're getting push from government. They're getting all the support they can from the government, and they're going to beat us if you try to clamp down on us. I think that's the argument that they've been making. If you look at like what Google does with its big moonshot projects, where the search business is great, but then they use a lot of those profits to fund new things that you don't know what's going to come out of it, those are the things that could die if you start sort of looking into their business and exacting these kinds of remedies that, you won't have that kind of innovation. You won't have that kind of investment if you go after this in this other kind of way. That's at least the sort of the seeming threat that they seem to hold over this sort of regulatory.
There are folks on the Democratic side who are no fans of big tech, too.
It's bipartisan. It's one of the few bipartisan issues, for sure, yeah.